Good afternoon. It looks like it's 1 o'clock Central Time, so we'll go ahead and get started. My name is Cariel Apodaca. I'm the exam manager here at the American Board of OB-GYN. I'm going to talk a little bit today about the training verification forms here at ABOG, as well as the advancing your residents and fellows. A quick note on terminology: most of what you'll see today references residents, but it translates exactly to fellowships. And so, if you have fellows, it'll look exactly the same. Obviously, the only major difference is the time in training. So I will get started. As a quick reminder, this webinar is being recorded. I will go ahead and get started with the training affidavits, and we'll begin with what the program directors see. So give me one moment here and I'll pull this up. So this is an example of the program director screen at ABOG. It'll have a lot of the maintenance certification information. But what we're focusing on today is this purple tab here that says administrative tasks. So when you click this, you'll always see this sign training affidavits. This, regardless of whether or not you have any affidavits to sign, is always here. And the reason is that if you have a resident who leaves training or a fellow who leaves training and they need to, you need to be able to attest to their time in training, this is still where you would be able to do that. It does read as if they were completing a full training. So if you prefer not to attest to that, you can send us a letter. But the majority of the time, this is just the easiest way to do it. So to be able to sign off on the training affidavits, the program director would log into their portal, and then they would click the administrative tasks and then click sign training affidavits. Any affidavits that are available will pull up here on this page. You'll be able to see training not verified and then their current status. So these two residents that are just examples are near graduation. If you have any withdrawn or transferred fellows, they would also show up here and it would say withdrawn or transferred. An important note is that these only appear 31 days before the resident or fellow is scheduled to complete training. So if you log in right now and look at this, for the majority of your fellows or residents, they actually won't be listed here yet. They'll pop up closer to the end of May. The program director will click on the affidavit. This is what will be seen for a resident. For the fellowships, this information is customized based on which subspecialty they're completing. It'll have their specific requirements in here. So the program director will reach through, make sure that all of the information is true, so that they've successfully completed their 48 months of training. There's case logs, what skills they have to do, and then they're demonstrated the good moral and ethical character, and then the leaves of absence are in accordance with our policy. If that is correct, then they will click that they certify that the above affidavit is correct, and then sign the affidavit. This will change the training program verified, and then you can return to the resident list. This will show any residents who are currently in the program. So here's the affidavit that is still pending. You can see that it's white. If the program director has made an error and wants to unverify a resident, there will be this red button, and this will show on their portal for a period of time after that's over. So once the program director has signed off on this affidavit, the program manager can verify that that's been done on the program portal. So here is an example of the program portal. So this is what typically is managed by the program managers. Frequently, the program directors also have access to this, but it's usually managed by the manager. So if you click this Add Maintain Resident screen, any fellows or residents who are completing within the next 31 days will have either this training not verified or this training verified and the date. So you can see these fellows are further out, these residents are further out, and so they won't actually have anything show up until it gets within that 31-day mark. But now the program manager can say, okay, well, I can see that this resident was completed, their training was verified on May 18th, but this one's still pending, and be able to track that on both sides for the program director and the program manager. A quick note about this: as you log in and you're making sure that some of these trainings are completed, you may notice that your year count is wrong for a resident or fellow. That's no longer something that you can update. That is part of a task that we'll discuss in just a moment. But if it's wrong, please email exams@abog.org and let us know what their current year count is. So that's what's effective right now through, in most cases, it ends June 30th. So it's not what's effective come July, it's what's effective right now. From here, again, that's where most of that's tracked. This advanced residence task will pull up on every residency program page on July 1st. For fellowships, it actually will pull up on August 1st. And this will be here and needs to be completed every year. So you'll be able to have this task on your page. You'll click advanced residence, and it will take you through every single resident and their year and whether or not you're ready to promote them. So you will notice that for residencies, your year 4 residents who are expected to complete training, you would hit next year. It'll take you through every screen. So let's say that there's somebody who's a year 3 who you don't want to yet promote to year 4. So you would uncheck that. You would need to explain why they're not advancing. So let's say just needs retraining. And then go through everybody. And then once you've gone through all of your screens and verified everybody's advancing, then you'll hit advanced residence. And what happens then is when you go in here, you'll be able to see that they're marked now. Your year 4s have actually been changed to completed training. And that's a little bit different than what it was before, but that way you can make sure that you know that they're no longer actually active in your program. They are now shown as completed. So it's important to make sure that you do that every year. What you'll find, unfortunately, is it may or may not have been done yet for the prior year. And so as you're going through these, if you have edits to make, please just email us and we'll make sure that those get taken care of for you. That is primarily what we wanted to walk everybody through today. It's very similar to last year, but you'll notice some of the language is a little bit different. We've tried to make it a little bit easier for you to tell whether a resident is currently active in your program or has already completed. And we've also tried to make it a little bit easier to verify whether the training affidavits were signed. So I will stop sharing my screen and we'll take questions at this time. And the first question that we have is this being recorded to watch again? And yes, it is. That information the webinar will be shared out with everybody as soon as this is completed. It'll take us a little bit of time to edit it and get it down to where it's, like the 10 minutes of just kind of showing the screen is not on here. So we'll make sure that this is recorded and we'll share that link with everyone. Are the FLS certificates going to be uploaded by SAGES, or is the program manager supposed to submit those? And that's actually a combination of those two things. So we regularly get updates from SAGES, and we make sure that the record's updated appropriately. Many of those have been processed. In some cases, the program manager gets it to us before SAGES does. And so when we get those, we also process those. So it's kind of a matter of whatever works best for the program managers or what we get from SAGES. So I will just note that we do get regular updates from SAGES, and it's kind of up to you what you prefer to do. Those are the only questions we have right now. I'll give it a few minutes. I know it was short and sweet, but hopefully the intention is just to make sure that everybody is aware of kind of these processes, how they work. We'll make sure that, like I said, these are posted, and we'll continue to do these pretty regularly, especially if there continues to be an ask for them. What is SAGES? I have a fellowship program. It doesn't apply to fellowships. SAGES is the company who does FLS, which is a standard for our residents. It is not a standard for fellows. So that's probably why you would not have that there, or would not be aware of that. Sorry, misbeginning. We can add our incoming PGY1s when. Those can be added at any point. I believe the fellowships have already registered their incoming fellows. For residencies, I know it's a little bit different, and sometimes you guys have different times. You can add your residents anytime by also using that add or maintain fellows tab, and I can pull that up again and show you real quick where that is. So this is just a screen that has everybody. Sorry, let me get back to it. So this is in the add maintain residence task. And again, this will always stay pending on your portal, just like the signed training affidavits. And again, the reason is that sometimes you need to make off-cycle changes to your fellows, or I'm sorry, probably not, I'm not sharing this. You need to make off-cycle changes to your residents and fellows, or like you have somebody withdraw, or you may just have somebody who's on a different cycle than is quote unquote typical. So you would click add maintain residents. And then down here at the bottom, you can either create a new resident or add an existing user as a resident. This is kind of one of the only major differences between fellowships and residencies, in that fellowships don't have the ability to create a new fellow. The reason for that is that nobody is eligible for ABOG certification that is not for ABOG subspecialty certification that is not also eligible for specialty certification. So fellowships don't have to create the new people because the residencies have already done that. So you can create new or add existing user if, say, you're getting a transfer. So that'll be the way that those are handled, and those are available anytime. You can do that anytime. I also have a question. I thought the resident had the ability to upload the FLS certificate to their home portal page. That's also true. It is another way of doing that. It's truly kind of a matter of what works best for the programs. We get, however we receive the certificate, it gets processed. So whatever works best for you. Do the program directors and managers have two different passwords for ABOG, or must they share? So typically the program directors manage their program from kind of a slightly different level than the program managers. So they'll actually use their same login that they use for maintenance and certification. And in the majority of instances, that's how the program directors prefer to manage the program. And then managers have a separate login and a separate password. Now, that separate login for the managers actually doesn't belong to the managers. It belongs to the program. And so if a program director needs to see, for instance, the full list of residents or fellows, then they would either need the access to the password for the program, or they would need to have like their program manager pull it up so they can look at it. So that's all managed in the program login, which is typically managed by the program manager. Do DOs need to complete FLS? I can't speak to whether it's an AOBOG standard. I can only speak to ABOG standards. And for ABOG standards, for ABOG certification, they would. So ABOG does certify DOs in those instances. If they want to be eligible for ABOG certification, they would also need to complete FLS. I think FLS sends score reports to residents. Unless they give me a copy of the report, I don't know if they passed. I look at ABOG to see if you have received a score report. I've always been confused by this process. So we do frequently get, and we don't get reports. What we get is kind of one big report that tells us whether or not somebody has taken and passed the FLS standard. If they have, then we process that. Some programs I know require that their residents show that they've passed it or not. It's kind of a matter of how you handle it by your program. You can certainly look at ABOG, like I had showed in that I'd maintain fellows and residents list also shows whether or not they're FLS certified. So if we received a score report, it would show that. You're absolutely correct. PDs will need to log into their own ABOG account to complete the affidavit, correct? That is correct. So the same ABOG portal that they use to complete their maintenance of certification will also be where that signed training affidavit link is. That can only be verified by the program manager, but the program manager cannot sign off on it. I added my fellows who are starting July 7th. Should their status be listed as inactive since they're still in residency, or active? When you register a fellow, they should, or a resident for that matter, it should be shown as active. Recognizing they're not technically active in your program yet, for our purposes, you can still show them as active. So I think it defaults to showing it as active. So you'll just leave that alone, and it should absolutely work for you. Can the affidavits be printed? At this time, they can't, as they're only attestations for ABOG. If you need a copy of something, you're welcome to email us at exams@abog.org, and we can see what we can get for you, but they're not like a part of the program because it's just an ABOG affidavit. All it does is it tells us that the training is verified and allows them to be eligible for the exam. And Dr. Larson has clarified that AOBOG does not require FLS for certification. That's the last of the questions that I have. Again, I'll give it a couple of minutes just in case there's anything more. And I also want to reiterate that if you have any questions that you think of later or that you aren't comfortable asking in this platform, you're welcome to email us at exams@abog.org, and we will get back to you about about all of those. You can also email fellowship@abog.org and get our certification and standards manager if you have questions about fellowships. Will ABOG be sending out an email when the program directors have to certify the training affidavit? I will verify that. Typically we do, so I would expect the answer is yes, but I'll make sure that we have that set up to be able to send out. That usually comes kind of from the notifications at abog.org email address, which is where many of your emails will come from. But I will double check that and make sure that that's still going out this year. And I appreciate the reminder. And again, that won't happen until closer to May. Once again, where will I see the affidavits? Program managers actually don't see the affidavits. They're just able to attest that the training was verified on the program manager on the program portal in the Add Maintain Residence task. The affidavits can be found on the program director's portal, but they're not, it doesn't like show their signature. It just kind of makes sure that they attest to it. So it's not like you can print like a PDF copy of the affidavit. And those only show up as on the program director because they're the only ones who have to sign off on that. When should we advance our fellows? After the deadline for the annual report? Yeah, so that's, I'm assuming that you're, yeah, so fellows, yes. The task to do that won't even show up on your portal until August 1st. And that was intentionally set after the deadline and to make sure that everybody had gotten in their annual report and has gone through an initial review. So yes, you won't even be able to do it before that deadline before the deadline has passed. And then as soon as you see it, you're welcome to get it done. So it should pop up on August 1st and be available through the end of the year. So as long as you get it done between August and December, you'll be set. Will we receive an email when we are able to advance them? Again, I think those are usually sent by us. I will double check that we have emails in place for all of these. Those are two separate communications in terms of the fellowships and the residents, in terms of advancing residents and fellows, only because the deadlines are actually, or the start dates are actually different. Because the residencies don't have the same annual report requirements, their task pops up much sooner. But we'll make sure that we get those emails in the system and scheduled. Okay, that's all I'm seeing. I don't see any more questions in here. And it was much shorter than we had allotted, but I want to be very respectful of your time and don't want to keep you unnecessarily. So again, if you have questions, you can email exams@abog.org or email fellowship@abog.org. If one of us needs to get an answer from the other party, we'll make sure that we get it to the right place. So you're welcome to email either of us anytime. We really appreciate your participation, your attendance, and your questions, and look forward to kind of keeping in touch like this. If you have ideas for webinars that you'd like to see in the future, we always welcome those suggestions to communications@abog.org. And we'll continue kind of doing this unless you guys tell us otherwise. So thank you guys very much and have a great rest of your day.